So, you want to get into BL. Maybe you've seen the new hot TV show Heated Rivalry, or maybe you've heard about this term yaoi through TikTok. Whatever the reason is, thank you for joining me today, and today I'm going to give you a beginner's guide to BL. Now, I've been reading BL for about 5 or 6 years at this point, so I would consider myself a semi-expert in this field and this ever-growing community. However, that does not mean I've read everything. Therefore, if you do have some experience within BL reading and you're just watching this video for the hell of it, then I apologize if I missed any big stories or some of your favorite stories, but I'm just going to try my best to give a simple beginner's guide to everyone. And feel free to comment down below any useful tips you have for anyone else who's new to this community and is ready to read. And with that being said, let's go. So let's start out with the absolute basics of BL. BL means boys love. It's a term that originated in Japan, and BL is the romantic storytelling of two people who identify as men. Now, you may have heard people referring to yaoi as BL, and yaoi is the original term for BL. It also originated in Japan, but it was more so used just for fan fictions, and it didn't really have a plot. It was mostly just smexy stuff for fanfics. However, BL includes like the romance and everything and all of that, so we're going to try to use the term BL for most of this video. However, we will come back to this term at one point, so just keep it in mind just in case. So with that, I think that there are two different ways you can approach BL based off of your past interest and knowledge. If you've watched anime or listened to K-pop, you enjoy Korean or Japanese culture, I think that there's one path you can go down. And then if you are more into the American culture side of things, maybe you enjoy American sitcoms more, some American classics, The Office, Gilmore Girls, anything like that, I think that there is another path you should go down to get started. So I will first start off with the more American side of things. So if you do want to jump to the anime K-pop start, you can go to this timestamp here. However, I do think that sticking around will be helpful, so I do highly recommend it if you can. Okay, so if you never really got the hype of like anime or K-pop, it's probably best to start off with the American side of things, just because there's some terminology in Asian BL media that is hard to grasp at first. So let's start out with just some American BL. And honestly, I think the best way to start is through physical books and Wattpad. And I know Wattpad sounds like the cringe 13-year-old girl fanfiction site, which it is. It is. But the beautiful thing about Wattpad is that anyone can post on there, and there are some really good diamonds in the rough that obviously have never been crafted into real books, but are good enough to be real books. And I think that you should read them, and they're a good start for you. Now, I personally have been on Wattpad for many years at this point, and there are a lot of stories that I have read, and there are a lot of stories that I have dropped. It's kind of hard to find some really good ones, so I'm going to give you about 3 of them to get you started. So I'm going to get started with 3 different stories of varying genres. The first one will be Night. Night is the Wattpad BL classic. I'm pretty sure the story has like 26 million reads. It's a really cute high school story, a semi-enemies to lovers, and it is a bit on the longer side of Wattpad stories. It's about 13 hours, but I think that's about the length of like most novels. But yes, it's a good, clean read, really cute high school love, and I think that it's pretty enjoyable for everyone. And then secondly, we have one of my personal favorite stories. This one is called Mateo. And now Mateo is a mature story, meaning that it is 18 plus. There are some more adult rated things in there, but it hits all the good points. It has good character development, good storytelling, and good romance all in all. So I very much highly recommend this one. However, I do suggest that you look at the trigger warnings beforehand. And then real quick before the last one, I did want to honorable mention When the Sun Sets. And Before the Sun Sets is a complicated but beautiful story about how to save a broken marriage. I think that it's a very beautiful story. However, the full version was taken off of Wattpad, so if you want to, I suggest reading what is on Wattpad, and then going on to Patreon and reading that one as well. And then lastly is Boy on the Second Floor. This story is a lot more intense, a lot more dramatic than the other two. However, I do think it's just like a really good story overall. There are 2 books to this series, so you will have to read both, especially if you want to get to like the romance parts of it. But yes, I think it's a very good drama / BL, and it's definitely worth a shot. And also make sure to check the trigger warnings on this one too. And yeah, if you run out of any Wattpad books to read, feel free to check out my profile here, and I have sorted all the ones that I read into different reading lists, so you can check out and pick what you like and what you want to read. Okay, so now that I've given out a couple Wattpad recommendations, I also have a couple book recommendations that you can purchase online or buy in store. First off, if you loved Heated Rivalries, you will love the Him series. I read the Him series many years ago before I even knew what Heated Rivalry or the Game Changer series was, and I was freaking blown away. I literally purchased like all 3 books. I read all of them in the span of like a couple weeks, and yeah, it was great. And I think the authors of these stories, Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, are very, very good writers together. They bounce off of each other a lot, it seems, and they're able to create some really good dynamic books. So I do recommend the Him series. And then also by the same pair of authors, we have Top Secret. Top Secret is much more of a steamy book, but it's really fun. It takes place between 2 guys in the same college frat who meet each other online. And yeah, I think it's fun and fresh and there's drama, so I also highly recommend giving that book a check too. And then for all my Love Island viewers, watchers, enjoyers, I lastly recommend The Charm Offense. And I talked about this in my last video too, but The Charm Offense is a really, really good book. It takes place on a bachelor-style dating show, and it's really fun to explore that dynamic plus the relationship that goes on behind the scenes. And the characters are really cute, the storyline is so cute and fun, it's drama-filled. So yes, check this one out, and this one is available for purchase online and in stores. I actually bought it at Barnes & Noble's before I saw anything about it online. And then honorable mention here, you've probably heard about it. This is another one of the biggest BLs of all time, but it is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Now this show did have a movie adaptation done already. However, I think that the book and the movie are very different. I've only seen clips from the movie. However, from what I've seen, it's a lot more comedy based. Meanwhile, the book is much more intimate and in depth. And for example, this is just a tiny spoiler, but I feel like the biggest thing in the book is the emails that they write, and they're just so well written and deep, and you just want to be able to read that for what it is in like your own mind. You know, I feel like it doesn't really do it justice in that sense. I think these 7 stories are a great start and a great entrance into the world of BL, and there's a lot more room to explore similar books. And as I said before, BL did originate in Japan, so I do want to mention that there is a bigger, broader world of BL beyond the West, beyond North America. And this usually takes the form of comics, meaning like manhwa and manga, and also TV shows. So while there is a bit of a learning curve to get into that, if you do want to read more BL, I do highly recommend keep watching the next part of this video and learn with us about what BL is on that side. However, if you do want to skip to the end of this video, you can go to this timestamp here, and I'll see you there. And with that aside, if you've made it to this part of the video, that means that you have some knowledge in Asian culture, or you're ready to learn about some good ass stories. And very quickly, the reason why I recommend people who have knowledge in Asian culture coming to this part first, reading manhwa and manga first, is simply because it's a lot easier to digest. You know, picture books have always been easier for people to read. As children, we grow up being able to see pictures of people, and a picture can portray more than words can if done well. So with that, and then the added effect of more dialogue than inner thoughts, I think that manhwa, manga, webtoons, comics are a lot easier to digest, so I highly recommend you starting out with them. Now let's start out with a little bit of background. In the world of BL, there are about 4 main regions that produce BL. I've categorized them into Japan, Korea, China and Taiwan, and Thailand. And please take note that Thailand only really produces TV shows, meanwhile the other 3 regions produce both TV shows and webtoons. But for this video, I will mainly only be talking about comics. And for clarification for the rest of this video, I will be referring to manga, manhwa, webtoons as comics for simplicity's sake. So along with there being different regions, I would say that each region also has their sort of own art style and feeling to all their comics. For example, in Japanese comics, they have sort of a more mundane, realist approach to love. There's a lot of office romances, as Japan is a very work-heavy society. However, these stories are both realist yet sweet and sometimes hard-hitting. And in Korean comics, if you ever watched a Korean drama, they love playing with the rich person ex-poor person trope, so that's also a big thing here as well. And compared to Japanese comics, which only span about 5 to 7 chapters. Korean comics have a lot more extensive plot lines and a lot more drama. And then Chinese and Taiwanese comics I have the least experience with. However, from what I've seen, there's a lot of college romances, and most of them are clean due to the region's policies with gay media. So I will be giving you about 3 recommendations, 1 comic from each region. Starting off with Japan, Japan's most classic of all time drama, Given. So Given is both a comic and an anime, and the anime has spin-off movies to go along with it. And while it's not a mundane office romance like I mentioned before, the story is rather a high school love story about boys in a band. And in this story, there's a main couple, and there's also a lot of side characters whose stories we're also able to follow. And since this series is about playing music and being in a band, I recommend watching the anime first actually, and then picking up on the comic from where the anime leaves off. It's also important to know that this series is still ongoing, so while the main couple has established their relationship in the story, there's a whole bunch of other plot points that the story will follow in the future. And you can watch this anime on Crunchyroll, Amazon Prime, and YouTube. And as for the comic, you can purchase it in most stores and online. However, I'm sure if you wanted another way to download it,
hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
I'm sure you'll find a way online. Okay, second off is a comic from Korea. Now, this comic is my favorite of all time, my favorite BL of all time, me personally. So, this comic is called Fools. It is a college romance story about 2 guys who fall in love. And not only is this story romance genre, but it's also a slice of life / self-discovery story. One of my biggest pet peeves when reading a romance BL is when we start to lose the plot of the main characters and start focusing on political or other plot point sidelines. I'm sorry, I get bored, I get tired. But this story is able to follow these characters' individual stories while still bringing it back to their romance. So I can really appreciate that, and I think that the author just does a great job of formatting everything here. Now this one is a bit harder to find online. There are 2 different versions of it. There's the original version, which is completed, and then there's a remastered version, which is uncompleted. So if you do want to read this story, you probably are going to have to do some searching to find it. So with that being said, I did want to also recommend a secondary story that is available on Tapas for everyone to read. And this story is called Path to You. It's a very, very cute, sweet college romance story as well. And it is a clean story, however, they do have a special scene at the end. So give it a shot. And then lastly, for Chinese / Taiwanese comics, I recommend the story called Here You Are. And this story and art style is just it's beautiful. It's another college romance story, and it's not necessarily enemies to lovers, but it's more got off on the wrong foot type of story. It's very sweet, very pretty, very beginner-friendly story, and this one you can actually read on the Webtoons app. As of recently, I believe they just added it on there. And if you remember me mentioning the word yaoi before, this is where it's going to come into play again. I just wanted to quickly note that as you start to read BL on your own, you'll see people categorizing different comics under yaoi and shonen ai. Just to give you a little quick explanation of what this is, since this is a beginner guide, when they categorize them into these 2 sections, yaoi usually means the sexually explicit BLs because the term yaoi, usually referred to the sexual stuff. Meanwhile, shonen ai are going to be the clean stories. So most of the ones I recommended you today are shonen ai, so just take that into consideration in the future if you ever stumble upon it. And now my last general recommendation for everyone. I would generally recommend the webtoon called Heartstopper. You also might have heard of Heartstopper before. It was originally a webtoon, turned into a book, turned into a TV series, so it has gotten a lot of recognition over the past couple years. But yeah, I think that Heartstopper is a really good starting point, and I think it's a really good bridge between the American side of things and the Asian side of things. But yes, thus far this has been a beginner's guide to BL. I hope I was able to educate you enough, give you a couple recommendations to get you started, and hope that you'll soon be able to fly and explore this beautiful world on your own. No, but seriously, I do think BL is a truly beautiful form of romantic media, and it's made by women for women's taste, so I hope that you're able to appreciate it for what it is. And yes, you don't have to follow this guide in any specific order. If you do have background knowledge in Asian culture, but you want to start with the American side of things, go ahead, let yourself run free, and just do what you enjoy. I do recommend checking out all forms of media if you can. If you do want to hear more BL recommendations I have for you, from TV shows and anime to webtoons, I will be posting a My BL Top 5 video very shortly, so keep an eye out for that. Finally, to reiterate on my beginning point, if you have any tips for anyone else, if you have any more recommendations, or just have general questions, leave a comment below and I will try my best to respond. But yes, that's everything. Bye guys!